running for us. So I'm going to do a quick demo with all of these devices. There's only 5 of them, so we should get through them pretty quickly. You're going to have questions. I can almost guarantee it. Hang on to those questions for me. I pretty much answer them all by our next space, just so you guys know. So again, thermal imaging, you guys should be able to see me in there. Red, orange, and yellow guy.
Yep.
So, sorry fellas, I'm the hottest thing in the video. Oh, there's more fellas than ladies tonight. Doesn't really work out that much, does it? So I get a lot of bridal parties, can you tell? So, but we're literally looking for blue and black to either move on their own or take shape on their own. Blue and black. I also have this set up to where there's a blue dot that's bouncing around the screen, giving you the coldest spot in the frame at that particular moment. So I put that there on purpose to help you when you're watching your video in review, helping to direct your eye on where to be looking for those coldest spots. I normally look for a 15+ degree difference between the ambient temperature in the center versus whatever that coldest spot might actually be. So, Steven, you're going to be holding this all night long horizontally. We're going to do a few starts and stops. So again, it's been a little temperamental, so try not to handle it by the actual camera. I actually have to take it into the shop to get that port kind of replaced. Okay. But I'll do a few starts and stops with you just because as great as the hardware is, the software sucks. If we record for too long, we're going to lose some footage, and I don't want to do that. I want to capture as much as we possibly can. Okay. Right now it is recording. We're going to leave it on record, and I'll give you the cue of when to stop it.
Okay.
The next camera. So this is the new updated infrared camera that we'll be using. I love how this thing looks. It used to be like this silver GoPro, very chunky, and a very chunky light at the top, and I had another one on the side, and it is so super small and sleek right now. Sorry, I'm like obsessed with this new camera. So we just updated this guy, so a quick demo with this. You should not be able to see me in there. It should be pretty dark on this little tiny GoPro screen until I turn on some lights. So I'm going to do that here in just a moment. So we're turning on 24 infrared lights to make your entire screen glow up with purple lights. Now, notice you cannot see the light emitting from the camera from your own eyes. The hope here is that we're going to be able to capture something we normally would not be able to see with our own eyes. So, I love this camera. It captures orbs like nothing else I've ever seen before. I also use lasers with this when I have my full groups of 10. However, the lasers aren't always super exciting because, again, you're just holding laser lights and hoping for movement to actually pass through them. And again, we're updating that specific device next month, so it's going to be very interesting how that one pans out with the new upgrade, because it does show you movement on a separate screen. Like, it's not a guessing game and waiting for the next day. So with this particular guy, you're going to handle this nice and easy. It's already recording. Just grab that handle. It's got some weight to it. Don't be afraid of it. Yep.
Hold it from here.
Just hold it from the handle. Yep, okay. That's the way it's designed. So again, now that both cameras are out, I will kind of warn you we're going to spaces where there might be parked cars or people walking through. So in the event, I do kind of like an Andy's coming from like Toy Story, kind of like you're going to be playing with a cell phone. That's part of the reason why I designed that thing that way. And this one, you're basically just going to point it at the ground, Andy and Joe. Just because people don't like their cars to be filmed and they don't like to be filmed themselves. We just don't want to look like YouTubers out here because it's exactly what we're not, right? Jamie's like, I want to be a YouTuber. You guys are probably looking for bulldogs. 2 blocks up, make a left.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right.
So, could have filled 2 more spots right there, man.
What's that?
So you could have filled 2 more spots right there.
You said, hey, you want to go on the thermal ghost truck?
I look at it this way. My tickets are probably double the price of what they're doing up there. And if they've already paid for them, that's like really my only competitor. They're going to leave a bad review for them, and that means they're going to come see me next time.
Right.
So, did I say that on record? I sure did, didn't I?
Yeah.
You did.
It's okay. They're like a corporate company that's here in town. So, mainly when you guys are here, it's mainly guys like me that, private owned companies, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Spirit boxes. We're going to be using a couple of different types of spirit boxes. So if you watch the TV shows and YouTube videos, you kind of know that this is going to be the white noise, right? And then your host will tell you what he thinks he heard in the middle of it, trying to convince you of the same thing because it's very blurry and you can barely make it out. We're going to be doing this in real time. However, we're using a different method because if Jamie's going to listen to white noise for 2 hours straight, plus all the history I'm going to give her, she's going to fall asleep. So the method we're going to use is I have the radio chatter slowed down. I want the radio chatter to come through, so the sweep isn't as fast as what you would normally hear on television. She's going to be hearing song lyrics, DJs, and commercials. If you can hear out any of the silly things that will come out of these people, like buy a Kia today and welcome to Charleston, yeah, I want to know that you heard buy a Kia today and welcome to Charleston. It's as slow as I can make it. Some people have a hard time with this, which is why we record it. This is recording the entire session, and I've already started the recording. you can mess with the volume all you want to, so it's not going to mess up the recording. You're also going to have an earbud in. You're going to be the only one to hear this in real time. By the way, they've never been used. You look at me kind of funny right there. You get to keep those because your earwax is gross too. So, but you're going to be the only one to hear it in real time. I'll be writing down everything that Jamie hears in real time to add it to your notes tomorrow morning, but I'm also going to spot check this guy for about 15 to 20 more markers, whether it's relevant or not. The reason I do that is because you guys aren't listening to it tonight. You're going to need to know how to listen to it tomorrow morning. So it's kind of like an aid to help teach you and coach you along. So you need to worry about two things. First off, there's a brand new twist tie on there, so you'll need to undo that. But your volume button is right here. It's a wheel, so you'll need to turn. It's already weighed down right now, so that way you don't get blasted in the ear when you pop it in. Just put in one earbud, so that way you can actually, share with your hubby over here. I'm guessing you guys are married.
Yeah.
Again, I hate to assume anything.
Yeah, right.
You never know. But yeah, you want to undo that twist tie so you have a little bit of room. And again, if you want to stretch out those earbuds so he wants to listen in later, you can do that. Let's see. Marty.
Yep.
So, this is a spirit box you don't have to listen to. It's super easy to use. So on your TV shows, this would be called an ovulus. It's a word list. So it's going to give us a word from time to time in the middle of the screen. It's going to save all those words into a list with timestamps. Kind of helps direct me on where to watch video, where to listen to Jamie's recording, so forth and so on. Last night we actually had 83 terms show up. That's been about the average. So I'm going to clear them out so we start off fresh. Here's what I'm going to tell you about this word list. 80% of it is going to be bullshit. I'm just going to put that out there. The other 20%, up to 20%, are going to be words relative to our location. A lot of times we can sync things up with the spirit boxes that are being heard. But again, this thing is it's a phone app. It has 36,000 terms and phrases in there. 18 times the amount of an actual paranormal device that's designed to do this, which is part of the reason why I love using this one. We have a much bigger chance, but it just means we have a much bigger chance of getting garbage too. So again, a lot of the times tonight, you're going to hear me say, yeah, that's nothing, or that's way too vague. So again, you'll hear me say that quite a bit. I'm not here to make things up and say, oh my God, it said behave, and we're acting up. You know what I mean? It's not that kind of mentality. So,
So what does that mean? When you say a word, do I look for the word and then tap it?
No. It's going to give you the words randomly from time to time. And granted, I don't want to see every word that pops up. I just showed you that 86 terms showed up for last night's tour. We'll be out here till 4 in the morning if you're trying to show me every word.
Okay.
I will come to you when I want to take a look at the list.
Okay.
So again, that way you're not like, hey, look at this, look at this. I gave this to a little kid last night, and that poor kid, oh my God. He Nick, it said this. I'm like, okay, dude, you got to calm down. Let me get through the history here. So, soon you get to carry the bag.
Yeah, right.
I said, you get to carry the bag. I'm kidding. You're
Lucky
not very
you.
Happy with that.
He's actually happy with that.
I would rather not have a device in my hand.
Well, I need you part of this.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
Come
So,
on. I'm trying it.
I'll try.
you got this. Nice, easy job. So these guys, you guys have probably seen on TV, right? These are K2 electromagnetic field detectors. So again, it's going to measure any kind of electrical fields. So cell phones, buildings, parking meters, that kind of thing. I like to use something a little bit more accurate, so we're going to be using a digital one. So this one, if the big number goes above 2.5, just let me know if it goes above 2.5.
Okay.
So the reason I say 2.5 is that's because the second green dot on the device I just put back in my bag is 2.5. We're going to still measure it to see if it's in a rhythm or a pattern. If not, we probably have some kind of activity going on, which means Jamie's probably hearing something and something may be showing up on a camera. The bottom number is ambient temperature. So in the event Steven finds something on his camera, you and I can debunk it or prove it pretty quickly just by going to the area where he thinks he sees something cold.
Right.
The last thing it has, and we may not use this all the time just because it can be very distracting for me, it's called a motion sensor or REM pod. In a nutshell, if something gets close to this antenna, it's going to go off. I'm not touching it right now. So the closer it gets, obviously different colors show up, higher pitch, but again, very distracting, can be very annoying for me when I'm trying to give you history. So I'm going to turn that part off for now, and all you really need to do is let me know when that big number goes up over 2.5. See? Nice, easy job. You
Don't have to touch any buttons
Nothing.
or anything.
Nope.
Okay.
Nice and easy.
I can do that.
Okay, I figured as much. All right.
I told him I was a klutz to start with.
Oh,
He probably
yeah.
gave me the cheapest.
Yeah, that's right. The cheapest. Oh wow, I doubt
What's
any of this.
that?
I doubt any of this
I
stuff
said
is
I
cheap.
told him I was a pretty much of a klutz sometimes to start with, and that he probably gave me the cheapest piece of
No,
equipment so that I
Yeah, no.
I don't drop it.
I will tell you, like my wife works for Best Buy, so if you guys are holding cell phones of some sort or camera gear, like normal stuff you would normally see with a camera, like yes, I get it at cost. So, but to maintain these items, yeah, it's not cheap. Just
Do you want us to turn our electronic devices off or
Nope.
anything?
Not at all. It's not going to affect anything.
Okay.
So
Cool.
the only thing that it would affect would be Tim's device, and that was if it was literally like touching it, like side by side. He might get a little bit of a pulse on there, like maybe up to 8 milligauss, but nothing really drastic.
Right.
So, all right. So let's talk about why we started here. So Big John's Tavern. Of course, it's haunted. That's why we started here. That's why I told you guys in your text message to meet me here. So drink of water, because I'm pretty sure Jamie's going to make me talk all night because she still hasn't said a word. So. Big John's was owned by a football player. His name was Big John Kennedy. Now you know why it's named Big John. He played for the 1947 New York Giants. I always try to slow down on specific keywords for our spirit boxes. I'm from the north, and it's another reason why we record everything, because my southern people always ask me to slow down. I'm like, nope, you can slow down the recording later. We got too much to talk about. So the 47 New York and Giants would obviously be relevant clues here if something starts popping up on your spirit boxes. For example, the word giant and the name John showed up on your spirit box, just so you kind of have that inkling of thought. But anyway, he used to sit in the back of the bar and tell the bartender if the cadets coming over from the Citadel, if they were actually of age to drink or not. So, we don't film people's apartments either, and you're not recording anyway. So, Steve was like, you got him.
I was looking for an
Are you
orb. Looking for an orb.
It's okay. And I'm glad you're excited. So, when he was sitting in the back one day, two guys come in from the Citadel. They're not old enough to drink. He has the bartender throw them out, and they leave pretty angry. They come back the next night and try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on. He slams down his beer and goes over and starts... Again, it's not even Saturday.
It's like the Geico commercial.
I know, right? So he slams down his beer, he goes over, starts beating the hell out of these guys, just pounding them right into the floor. A couple of gunshots go off. John gets grazed in the neck, but the bullet lands behind him in the wall. John gets up after being shot. He's the only one that's been shot, by the way. He goes back to the bartender and tells him, get me another beer, go get those two guys an ambulance. So, I normally tell you that the building behind me is haunted. Everybody usually thinks of some tragedy that actually occurred here. What's haunting the place is the bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. Even if this new renovation of Big John's filled it in, that means Big John's blood is still in the building, because I'm sure they did not get out every drop. People that sit in the front of this bar tend to get a little queasy, nauseous, or headache. This is kind of your heated warning. Like, seriously, this is a very, very big deal, where if one of you guys start feeling any of those symptoms, I need to know immediately. Obviously, we're going to take the heat and humidity into effect, and that you're not from here. But at the same time, things do occur on my tours where I've had to call paramedics, and a lot of times it is due from the paranormal activity we're dealing with. So, let me know if anybody's feeling that way. That way we can move the whole group and get that person to safety. Is that fair?
Fair.
Sure.
All right. Again, that's probably the scariest thing I'm going to tell you all night long. And I know Jamie chuckled, but this is like, I take this very seriously. Safety is a very big deal. So.
No, I was laughing because it's a bar, and we said sometimes people get a little
Nauseous and
nauseous
queasy.
and
And they only have two.
like they may have drank too much.
Well, a lot of times, like, I'll get, like,
I
mom,
wasn't
dad, and
laughing.
child, for example, on the tour, and I tell everybody to meet me here, and it says Big John's Tavern, so they look up to see if there's a menu. So they'll go there for dinner, and they can't finish their meal. And it's usually only one person out of the group, you know, say mom, who didn't have a drink that day, and they come to the tour, and she's like, man, I really, that was a great steak, but I just couldn't finish it. I'm like, watch, I felt really nauseous. I'm like, don't worry, I'll explain why. You know, it happens all the time. You know, and again, drunk people on my tour, I don't take the tour if somebody shows up drunk. So if Andy's drunk and he's really good at hiding it, you know, good on you, because I wouldn't be touring right now if you were drunk, because there's too much of the expensive equipment that Marty's holding. But
Right.
The clubs.
all right, so let's get our mind off our own health, shall we? We had a big earthquake here in 1886. If you didn't know that from any other history tour here in town, now you do. Every tour in town talks about it. Big John's, the building, is allegedly where the first death occurred from that earthquake. The white mantle you see in the middle of the building also wraps around the front on the East Bay Street side. A piece of it broke off, struck somebody in the back of the head and killed them, and they say you can see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street. I say apparently and allegedly because I have no proof. It's just a great segue so nobody's thinking about getting sick on the tour, even though I just brought it up again. And now Tim's looking around for broken pieces of the ledge. So, is everybody ready to go ghost hunting?
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right, we're going to go this way.
All right.
Am I supposed to listen to this now? The whole time? Am I supposed to listen to this the whole time?
Probably. Put it in. I think once he gets to the spots that he's taking us to, obviously that's the time to...
It's playing music.
Huh?
It's playing music.
Playing music. So there's no words? Or is it just acoustical?
Yeah.
Huh?
It's music.
Nice small group. You can keep up with me. This is going to be good.
I can't see your ear. Slow down.
When is she supposed to be listening to this yet, or? Huh?
It's your guys' tour. If she wants to keep one earbud in and turn the volume up and try to listen to me at the same time, she can do that. I'll tell you that can be very difficult. So normally that's why I say you could play with the volume up and down, in between spaces, or while I say, all right, let's spread out a little bit. Let's see what we can capture here. So again, it's completely up to you. The more you listen, the better you're going to get at it.
But you're going to cue us to when we should start using it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, welcome to the Big Red Barn Lot. This is a very easy space, and please don't spend a lot of time here, because it's just, imagine if I have 10 people here, I now have to explain hands-on experience with the 10 different devices. So, this is where we keep the horses for carriage rides. So you guys can probably smell them. It's pretty humid out here. I'm immune to it because I'm out here 7 nights a week. So, history here is really simple. This is the same red barn that held horses that used to deliver milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. Obviously, keywords here being delivery, milk, eggs, and anything relatable to a stable. So let's talk about the 2 spirit boxes that we're using tonight. It's kind of weird that I don't have more than 2, but that's all right. So spirit boxes, everybody wants to ask the same question whenever they get a communication device. What do you think that question is? Or even a Ouija board. What's the first thing you ask a Ouija board?
Yes or no?
Yes or no what?
Good question.
What question?
What do you think, Jamie? What's the first question? Well, the first question most people want to ask is somebody here? Right?
Oh.
So if Jamie hears no, that means somebody's here. So we're not going to be asking yes and no questions all night long. Even if you are a skeptic and you're here hanging out with us, you're still here for some type of paranormal proof, and it does not come out of yeses and no answers, just so you know. We are going to be going after very specific type of details. Normally with people with spirit boxes that have never used them before in a space like this, I would say ask a question you know the answer to. For example, if somebody's here, tell me what color the big red barn is. Obviously, we are listening for the color red or looking for the color red on your spirit box. However, Jamie's going to be listening to song lyrics and DJs, hoping to get a conveyed messages from one of them. The word red might not be available to that song lyric or DJ, but fire truck, blood, heart, those 3 things are specifically red. What color is the big red barn? Blood. I'm good with that. However, most of the night I'm going to require, to be able to verify what's actually happening around us, at least another piece of evidence from the same device or something from another device to be able to verify it. Another example. Let's say Marty's list has the word art on it, and that doesn't mean anything in this location because we're standing next to football players and ponies. However, Jamie hears the number 40. Put them together, Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. Do you guys see where I'm going to be putting clues together with you all night long? Again, it's not going to be a full-blown conversation. It's about piecing this together. That's why I call it an escape room. Because again, you're going to have to help me piece this stuff together. I'm not Google for every location. There's going to be things I'm like, that's a great term. I've never heard or seen that here before. I'm going to have to dive into that in the morning. Again, I'm going to withhold information because, yes, I do know a lot about these spaces, but again, I withhold information so that way you guys don't know that Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. So when it does pop up, it's a nice big surprise, and I can give you the link to be able to verify it tomorrow morning. That's why I take notes in real time. Let's talk about these cameras. So you're going to keep your camera nice and steady. I noticed like you're pretty, like you walk with your arms, so that's perfectly fine. But most people, when we're in a space and I say, let's go ahead and get those recordings started, nice, slow, steady movements. Try to keep them nice and even keel. We're not working with lasers tonight, so again, it's all about like seeing what's going on. Like that way you can kind of help with the other 2 devices and kind of see what's going on. As far as your camera, Steven, you're going to try to go through, is it Steve or Steven?
Steve's son.
Okay, so with that, you're going to try to do 2 things. I know I told you not to film other people. That's because they didn't pay to be filmed, you guys did. So you're going to try to keep one of us in view at all times. The reason why is because our skin temperature is going to be the warmest thing out here, and it gives an array of color on the screen. So again, like you're in a perfect spot right now. Probably have Marty in the screen, which means the wall behind her is going to be somewhat blue, and we can see colder spots moving around if they're actually there. Okay. The other thing you're going to try to do is keep the sky out of view. It's going to be difficult in most locations, but we're going to try. Okay. The reason why is that blue dot goes up to the sky because there's no surface. So it defaults up there on purpose. Okay. Again, your camera sees in 2D. You're going to see some white outlines of certain things, obviously people and objects. So again, they might look like a little shadow off to the side just because the camera's trying to help us because it does not see in 3D. Just the way, I mean, we see obviously in 4D, but it is looking at things in 2D. So it's going to just look like at flat surfaces. Here's the temperatures on a flat surface. Okay.
And you want to see anything more than 15-degree ambient? Is that what you said?
I look normally when I see something either growing in temperature, like I'm looking at it, is it going to go above 15 degrees? But I have caught anomalies where there's somebody in view and they're perfectly orange, red, and yellow, and then there is a walking person in blue and black, and they're not the coldest spot in the frame. So it does happen. And again, going to see a lot of that when you get your data back, because there's a link to actually where you can get some help, like a field guide, and I put some proof in there so that way you guys kind of see what I see when I'm going through this data. And
scan the same way that you were talking about. How
nice and slow.
Nice and slow.
Yep, slower the better.
Just in horizontal patterns, just sort of back and forth type stuff? Or?
Either that, or I mean, even standing still for 3 to 5 minutes, kind of gives us a nice array as people are walking around in a certain space. It just depends on the location. So if I are actually going to spread us out here, you would probably be good perfectly right here watching everybody else work. Okay. And if she wants to hang out with you, obviously to give you the other earbud, that way you're kind of double duty, you guys can do that. While these guys are actually looking for the anomalies with the EMF detector, and obviously we got cameras and other spirit boxes in work, so again, you guys can almost be stationary in almost every location.
Okay.
All right. Everybody have a good gist on how their devices work?
Yeah.
Have you seen any numbers show up yet, Tim?
Earlier, but no, there's nothing right now.
What did you see earlier?
0.7.
Okay, so, and that's what I've been waiting for. The Earth actually gives off a natural electromagnetic field. It goes up to about 1.1 milligauss. So that's why I say 2.5. So at least you've seen some numbers move, which is good. Yep,
right.
You got it.
Down to 0 right
What
now.
am I looking at?
So orbs, any kind of movement like that's going to be showing up on that guy. I debunk a lot of bugs when I'm reviewing the video, and I put the criteria in that field guide of how I actually go through that. But with yours, what's really nice about it is because it's not always, that screen is so small, it's always usually about the next day review. If you capture something in real time, fantastic. But at the same token, you can be helping out, like watching the list, asking questions, seeing if Tim's getting a reading.
Now mine says
no,
please
I just wanted to see what it
no,
would do, so I know how to differentiate between.
Perfect. I'm glad you caught that ahead of time.
Mine says rolling.
What does it say?
Rolling?
Rolling. So there's a white box next to your word. Hit that white box.
It keeps wanting to go
Going
off
to the
the
left
tin
or the
roof
right?
over
To the
there. I
right.
guess it's
I'm sorry, hit the circle
Start
back
to
at
go
the top
down.
right. It's going to give you every term that we've had. So when I say I want to see the list, that's how you get to
Are
it.
you listening to
So what are the last 3 or 4 terms that you have?
Substance.
Well, maybe give it a neck and make sure that you're hearing what you're supposed to be hearing.
It's going on the top.
Huh?
Lost.
But it's slowed down, right?
I can't make out what you're saying. Can't make out anything.
Shuttle and something.
Let me know if that SD card thing pops up again.
Yep.
All right, so take a quick gander at this before we move on.
Yeah.
13, yours name is really good, so hopefully your name is going to pop up on the other one, and we can find out who it actually is. So now that everybody has a good gist of their devices, let's go get away from ponies and football players. Do it again.
Yeah.
All right, so let's head through this.
You like this strap on?
Hmm?
You like this strap on?
Mm-hmm. It's fine. So it wasn't the first stop on the tour. It was sort of a briefing space. Huh? It's got a full moon tonight too. Pretty cool.
All right, welcome to your technical first location. You made it to a parking lot. Good job. Congratulations, everybody.
You almost have a full moon tonight.
Almost. Got another day. Almost.
Close.
All right, we are back up and running. Good deal.
Pretty painful.
So, there are obviously cars parking here, so cameras. I think you guys already know how to handle your cameras. So let's get into why we're here. So this space used to be something. This used to be the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion. So, first off, spirit boxes, I'm not going to be giving you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the big red barn. you're going to get the answers from these spirit boxes. This will be our first location where I withhold information purposely. So who the heck were Charles and Eliza Pinckney? They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Charleses. Do you guys see why I look for secondary verifiers at this point? I hope so, because we need to know who the heck we're talking to. The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. That's a pretty big deal for us, but I hate politics more than anybody here, so we're going to move on. Eliza married Charles at a young age. I'm not going to tell you what that age is, but it's not going to be numbers like where the colonial times that she came from. So if you're going to ask her how old she was when she got married, you're not going to get numbers like 13 like what we have on there. It's according to today's standards. The reason I bring this up is because her husband, Charles, was over double her age when they married. So you can ask her how old she was or how old her husband was, what the age gap is. Again, we get all 3 of those digits. But she married him because her father over in England thought he was dying. He wanted to see all of his children one last time. She didn't think he was dying, so she basically stayed put and said, yeah, I'm going to stay here and get married instead. It's 1744, so she didn't actually marry Charles for a green card or citizenship to stay away from her dad. She did marry Charles out of love. We're not even a country yet. Green cards weren't even a thing. So everybody kind of looks at me funny when I say that. I'm like, yeah, green cards. They're a thing. People do that these days. But at any rate, so she was right. Her father did not die right away. Instead, he starts sending her gifts from England to this space. One of those gifts happened to be the plant seeds of indigo. You guys have been in town for at least an hour that I know of. You've seen the word indigo somewhere. I can promise you that. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. You're wearing it right now. Oh, there's actually 2 of you wearing it tonight. That's actually nice. I normally only have 1 reference because nobody wears blue jeans anymore. So, but with that said, she didn't know what to do with these indigo seeds when she got them. She had to learn from her slaves once she actually, figured out what they were. They helped her experiment because it's not always hot here. Once she figured it out and had a little cash crop going, she moves it to a plantation, calls her father and says, Dad, the rice plantations are going downhill. We can make a killing with these indigo seeds. So now we have an international businesswoman in colonial times. This is absolutely unheard of. Now that's her business. Let's get into the weird stuff because that's why everybody's here, including Tim. I'm gonna keep calling you out, getting you to talk. So,
I went in there.
Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles back to back, 5 months apart no less. His first wife Eliza dies in January of 1744. He marries the indigo seed planting Eliza in May of 1744, so 5 months after his first wife's death. So, gentlemen, that's either really smart or really stupid with the same name. I don't know how you guys want to look at it, but I look at it as pretty darn stupid. So, if you want to figure out which Eliza we're dealing with, ask the maiden name. We've gotten both of them here in the past. Well, the mansion. Let me give you the quick layout of the land. I don't think I gave you that yet. So the mansion actually sat in the front of this space facing East Bay Street. Eliza's garden, where she experimented with her indigo, was lined up with 5 Church Restaurant and came all the way across. And we are standing where the servant and slave quarters were for the home. So we're going to stay within the confines of the lot, but let me give you some more weird stuff that you can actually ask about. You can ask what happened to the mansion. It's obviously not here. So I'm giving you a clue that it's kind of a tragedy, right? And if you get an answer, ask what year that happens. At times, we will get a specific date, the month, the date, and the day of the month, and the year. It just depends on the night. The children, I told you there's at least one. His name was Charles, signer of the Constitution. There's more. You can ask how many and what their names are. That's it. Reason why is because there's a tragedy among those kids. If we poke the bear too hard, and I will tell you we're getting really close to the date of that tragedy, all activity will stop, including any EMF that Tim's devices might be catching through here. It'll go down to 0, and nothing else will happen throughout the rest of the space. So just so you know, don't mess up the tour for everybody by asking about that poor child. I will tell you what happened before we leave the space. Eliza's death is where she's really open. That's where you can ask her how she died, what she died from, where she's buried, and what U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. Again, very specific questions. Notice that none of them are yes or no answers. So, again, we're going to spread out in here a little bit. We're going to stay within the confines of this lot, but we're not going to be going near any vehicles, especially filming any vehicles. We definitely do not go in between vehicles. These cars belong to people that work down here, and they don't know what we're doing out here. However, if I was a car thief, Steve's device would be the first thing I'd have because I know how long they've been sitting here, basically based on their heat signature. So if we were car thieves, Steve would be our leader. We're going to blame him. So
Perfect.
He's like, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
But again, we're going to have some fun in here now that his camera's up and running properly and still recording, so that's super awesome. We're going to crank up those spirit boxes. I may give this team another spirit box to work with that's a little bit more open so you all can hear it. It's just not as active as, say, those 2 that I already handed out. But it is 75% accurate, so when things pop out of that guy, it is 75% accurate to the space that we're in, and it is still relatively new to the tour. Again, I have 5 different styles of spirit boxes, so we'll kind of see how this goes. If we're getting a lot of activity, I may break that one out myself and start using it, and then hand it off to them. So let's spread out a little bit. Let's have some fun in here.
Okay.
I'm going to get the other one set up, and I'll be with you guys in a minute trying to take notes.
Okay.
So,
Are you going to remind us of some of the questions to ask?
again,
You know,
the
'cause, I mean, you're giving us a lot of information and stuff, so, right?
I would say the easiest thing is what happened to the mansion. Start there.
You can just ask it at any time?
Anytime you
Huh?
want.
Okay. So, Eliza, what happened in the mansion? Do you know of a year this occurred?
June. June.
June? Did you hear June?
Yeah. I think.
So she thought she heard June.
June? You can get a number.
Oh my gosh. Very hard to hear.
It is. It's not an easy job. You have the hardest job out here.
A lot of people sure I heard you.
Well, we're in the month of June, so it is a very likely cause that you may have heard June. But again, that tragedy I told you guys about, I mean, we're 2 days away from when it actually occurred.
So it wasn't June.
Yes.
See, it was in June.
Eliza, do you know of a date in June this happened?
You said 2 days ago.
Huh?
Well, he's trying to get the
Specific
number.
date. Specific date.
Yeah, he wants the specific.
Jumps from what? From a step? Not getting on. But I get as high as.
Eliza, what was your maiden name?
Oh my gosh, 5. 5.
What other questions were we supposed to ask? Do you remember?
What happened to the mansion?
What happened to the mansion?
Right?
Mm-hmm. Eliza, what happened to the mansion? Eliza, how many children did you have? Eliza, what were the name of your children? What's that? He's sitting down over here.
Are you okay? It's freaky because it says get out.
What happened?
I don't know.
I couldn't hear him when he was chattering. How bad he was.
Hmm?
How bad he was.
That's what it said? How bad he was? That's what it said?
Tell him he's a super hurt.
Huh?
You find it back, it's killing him.
What's wrong? I'm confused. I don't know what she's talking about.
Have you seen anything?
Hmm? No.
Did I ever show you that picture from the camera before?
Mm-hmm.
Did I ever show it to you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Car's worth more now.
All right, what do we got on your end? Anything else coming out?
How bad he was.
The car's worth more now.
Again, you never know what's actually going to
Yeah,
make sense.
right.
So you might.
I'm not sure if I'm like hearing stuff.
So,
Just
but
just so you know, like how silly this can be.
Okay.
If you hear "drop it like it's hot,"
Yeah, right.
the word "hot" might actually be relevant.
Oh, okay.
Do you see where I'm going with that?
Mm.
So again, these things happen. Somebody last couple nights ago, I'll say, it was a couple, they were both listening in and they heard the hands on my knees, and they were cracking up laughing because apparently they both love that song. I'm like, so what'd you guys hear? They're like, oh, nothing, it was just a song we both like. I'm like, well, what was the song? What did you hear? And they said, hands on my knees. I was about to tell them a story of a person who got shot in the kneecap.
Mm.
Like we were on our way there. So do you see how like certain keywords will pop up?
Okay.
So again, worth more might mean something, but again, I'm not going to take it because it's not specific enough for me. Kneecap is a pretty definitive body part,
Sure.
right? So again, I'm not trying to like don't have fun with this because I want you to have fun with this, but I want you to see like no matter how silly you think it might be, I'm going to look at every single word and see what's actually might be relevant out of the space.
Yeah, I'm
Nothing
trying to-
over 8.
Okay. Now what do you got? She had the word red pop up just a second ago.
Company.
And well, we had get out pop up, but we're not taking that yet. I need another.
love to get out things.
We're gonna see if something, because I've gotten unwelcoming messages here in the past, so I'm waiting to see if another one's gonna come up to kind of verify that. So
No, just red and then
Again, if you
Finn
get-
and company.
if you get like a leave now, or you're not welcome here, or things like that, like popping up, that'll be our cue to get the hell out of Dodge.
Okay.
Nick,
I got something.
so you were recording, right?
I don't like hearing random stuff. I don't even know any of it. It's like very odd.
Where are you at?
Where you at?
I don't know. I feel like I should be asking more questions.
I'm having a really hard time hearing.
Huh? Eliza, how'd you feel about your husband's second marriage?
That Ford concrete pad, there's a producing heat.
I'm the worst at this.
What you got?
Something about a touchdown? Got touchdown. Touchdown. Football. Touchdown.
You did get touchdown? Huh? She said she just got touchdown.
Okay. It's a football term.
Yeah, football
So, I
term,
mean,
for
we're
sure,
still
yeah.
close to Big John's. Things
Yeah.
do bleed over.
Yeah.
Again, it's not super definitive until
I
we
keep
get something.
hearing cars. I heard car again. I don't know if that means anything.
I'm gonna write it down. Of course, there's no cars in the colonial times.
Right, I don't know.
And John.
Maybe they're not happy there's so many cars here where their house
Maybe.
used to be.
Maybe.
They're
I
like-
haven't had anybody like. Normally, when I get like the get out or you're not welcome here messages, it's normally with my name attached to it somewhere. Because that does happen. The pygmies do get pissed at me because I'm here every night invading the space. But again, usually when I get those, I just pay my respects. Thanks, guys, for letting us try to talk to you, and we're out the door. Like we're out of here. It doesn't happen often, but I will tell you, it was like 2.5, maybe 3 weeks ago. It was like 2 nights in a row. It was like Nick, and then you're not welcome here. Like showed up on another spare one. So I was like, all right, that's so cute. Let's go wrap this up. So we got out of Dodge. That's all there was to it.
I'll let you know if I hear that.
Yeah. I'm not going to have you search for it because obviously I want you guys to get some more messages coming through.
Okay.
All right, Marty, can you think you can handle tweeting? This one you can listen to. So it's already playing. The only thing you need to worry about is where the mute button is, which is right here on the right hand side. I'll give it to you when you mute it. So it's only going to give us words from the right hand side. It's going to
by the gate.
Oh, gotcha.
We didn't know which way we were going.
Oh, we're kind of just wandering around and seeing like where, like we should be following him. Like he's the one who's going to know where the high EMF spikes are. So he is. Yep. He's the one with that device.
Said there were like 5 different locations.
Oh, there is. There is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not done here yet.
Oh.
I'm going to give you all the answers. I'm not going to leave you all hanging.
Okay.
So, but you guys haven't super given me anything yet where I'm like, oh my god, except for that red that showed up there, which is obviously relatable to where we just were.
We got dispute.
So if you stay on that screen, they won't keep coming up. You have to kind of keep toggling
Like
back and
refresh?
forth. Yeah. Well, not refresh, but just toggle back and forth between the two different screens.
Got it.
So, anything crazy going on with yours, Steve?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Jamie, you getting the gist of how to listen to that now? Now that I've given you a few extra examples?
It's just hard to make it all out. It
Yep.
might be easier if I had both of them
And in spaces like this where we're going to actually spread out like this, it might be easier for you to put both of them in. So put
Yeah,
both of them
okay.
in. But in a minute, I'm going to give you, if you want to put them in for like a minute or so, and we'll start wandering towards the back, and that way I can give you guys all the answers before we head
Okay.
out of here. All right, come on, Tim. I'm going to give you guys all the answers.
All right, Tim, we're going this way.
I need a question sheet.
I'm usually restricted to where the cars aren't parked when I have, specific sized groups. Unfortunately, in Charleston, there's glass everywhere. I don't know why they don't
I
clean the streets
know.
better.
I see that. I've noticed that.
Alright, so those of you with videos, go ahead and kill your videos. On yours, that's going to be the circle all the way to the right on the top of the camera. And then, of course, yours is going to be the red square. Companies that I go through is called Ghost Stock. They're in Florida. They make their own equipment. They're a pretty well-known brand in my field. Like the Spirit Box that Jamie's using, they made that one. The camera on the other one, like the Phasm Cam, that's one of their new models. I just altered it so it had the handle and the crazy light on the top because I didn't feel like the light that was built into the camera was strong enough for what we do here. But they make a lot of their own equipment. So Ghost Stop, but a lot of times I gotta piece things together through Best Buy. That's an actual FLIR camera. Like, I bought it straight from FLIR. So again, it's just a matter of like knowing what equipment you want to use and getting the real deal instead of.
I just don't even know where you
toys.
would even start in order to manufacture.
So I have a
science
guy that
behind
when
it.
we do get our shop, he used to be like Geek Squad for Best Buy. So we're gonna stop right here just so you know. He's actually pretty tech savvy, so when we're ready to start diving into some of the technology that's out there and how we can either change it or better it, like he'll be one of the first guys on the list to be in the shop. So
Cool.
he's pretty into it. All right, Jamie, any names come out of yours? Jamie, any names come out of yours? Did you hear anything at all?
No. I just stuck it in.
Oh, you just stuck it in? You
Yeah.
were listening the whole way?
No.
Oh no.
It's okay,
I
it's
was supposed
recording.
to wait till I got to
No,
the
you're perfectly fine.
spot.
I wanted to keep you busy along the way here. That's why I started talking to Steve, so that way you could listen in.
Fail.
Marty, how did yours go?
Oh,
I didn't
man.
get anything out of here, and I got
I failed, huh?
a couple
I thought I was
mowers.
supposed to wait till I got
Champion,
here.
Cell, Miracle, Rod, Detect, Captain, and Bike.
Interesting set of words.
Company rep and several stood right before my get out, which I love.
I like challenge. When did that challenge actually pop up?
Champion.
Champion. When did
Last
that
one, just now came out.
Just now when we came in here?
Yep.
Okay. Very weird. So what's weird about that, I'm going to have you mute the other one. So do you remember where the mute button is on the right? Just because we're in a quiet space, which is why we use earbuds in certain other areas. So last night, the next space that I take you to, it had keyword, like very specific keywords show up throughout the entire night, which was very odd for that space. Because it's normally not one to lead over pretty much the half mile that I cover. So it was very weird that I had specific names, I had specific dates. Like these were very specific things. Champion being one of them, because we're going to talk about dueling here in a little while. That's what I was asking you, when did we get it? Because we actually crossed over the street that it's kind of adjacent to, and I've seen that before, but never so much even back in the Pinky Mansions. I know that's very confusing, but if you go back and look at the previous set of data, it will all make sense of where those terms have come from. So, where are we? This is Lodge Alley. When we cross that last crosswalk, that's where the original Charlestown Walls used to be. So it went up Cumberland and down East Bay Street, which was the street that we were just on, but it was across the street from us. So this is one of the very first streets of Charleston. So when I say Charlestown, Charleston used to be called Charlestown, the walled city, one of 3 fortified cities in the New World. So again, I love bringing you down here because of obviously these crazy bricks. I'm not trying to trick anybody up.
One of the 3 what?
Fortified cities. So it actually had a wall around it. I don't know which other 2 cities had the wall.
In the world? You said
in the New World.
In the new. Oh, okay.
So in the Americas,
That seems
basically.
A little doubtful, but go on.
That only 3 cities had walls wrapped around them?
Yeah. In the new world, but
Back in the day,
all over Latin America there were cities with
no,
walls.
the U.S. The U.S.
Or
The
US.
new world is.
I'm considering like the New World,
Okay.
the United States.
Okay. Careful with your terminology.
Fair enough. So I'll stand corrected. It's perfectly fine.
Professor.
It's okay. I'll stand corrected. It's perfectly fine. I love fact checkers, by the way.
Yeah, right.
So, because if I'm saying something wrong, I want to know what it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, where we're standing, people used to live here. So you are not recording this.
Yeah, remember you
I'm not.
back on.
You want back on?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So-
and that one.
Yeah, he's back on. I know that one for sure. So people used to live here, and when I say people live here, the list is basic. It's not very long at all. It's only like 2 to 5 people per year that they actually recorded of people that actually lived here. So the names I commonly hear are Benjamin and John. Benjamin and John both lived here in 1801. I don't have anything specific about like that year that would make this a raised emotion for these things to keep happening. But I do kind of have a theory, and we're basically standing on it, which is part of the reason why I love to bring you down here. So I've been touring this location for almost 3 years, and it finally came together probably about 6 or 7 months ago of why the same names keep showing up every 6 to 7 weeks. It's only the 6 to 7 week rotation time that I actually see them and I gauge it. Now, we're standing on Belgian blocks. Belgian blocks are actually said to be made of granite. Granite is not supposed to hold any electromagnetic field whatsoever. So, Tim, if you actually put your device on a brick, you should only get a reading up to about 1.1, which is natural from the Earth. So from the past couple of weeks that I've been diving into this even further, we've gotten readings all the way up to 11.7 in that 6 to 7 week loop, where I was actually getting the names of Benjamin and John. Lately, it's been a lot lower than that. We've been getting a couple little 3s, little 5s, so not very high spikes, but still spikes higher than what it actually should be. Again, there's no electromagnetic field in this type of rock. So what we're dealing with here is what they call the stone tape theory. The stone tape theory basically states that if a natural rock, like basically what they're calling this as, the Belgian blocks, and it's coming straight from the earth in the same place, it's said to hang on to the consciousness and memories and being able to be recorded back and played back through devices like what you're holding. So why am I getting those same names over and over again? Again, every 6 to 7 weeks, it's like I'm watching that length of a movie and I'm only capturing the tail end of it. So I'm getting the same names. Every once in a while, a third name will pop up. The name is James. I'll let this gentleman pass through. How you doing? So the third name I'll get is Jane. That's a third person out of 5 that lived here in 1801 that pops up in that same time frame. Lately, I've also been getting the name David while we're in this location. It's a 4th name, but it's not in that 6 to 7 week long loop. I actually heard it again last night when I was going through the Spirit Box recording. So again, 4 out of 5 names of people that lived here in 1801. Again, I don't call this coincidence whatsoever, especially with the John. The John is specific because there was like 4 different Johns that lived here in a 60-year time span. John will give us his last name when we're in that 6 to 7 week part of the loop. His last name was Johnson. His name was John Johnson. Again, very specific. Before people lived here, Freemasons had a Masonic lodge here, hence the name Lodge Alley. So we will get terms like Freemason, Mason, Brick. We even had the term Illuminati show up. That showed up 6 times last year alone on a radio station, and 3 times already this year. So, first off, who the hell is talking about the Illuminati on the radio? That's my first question. Second, why am I only hearing it while we're inside this space? I can't answer these questions other than it's not coincidence that the same terms keep showing up over and over and over again. Again, this is not a space where we can ask questions and get answers. We never know what's actually going to happen. We have captured plenty of works on air camera in this particular space, and I love that camera in this location because because it is nice and tight. They're easy to find when they actually show up. When we're using lasers in this space, I usually have the guest like standing where Jamie is, pointed at this wall, and the person with the camera is pointing this way. So we'll be able to see anything that breaks the laser grid, and it'll shine up like a Christmas tree when it does. So again, very interesting the way we actually use these tools together. And I linger here on purpose. You can't ask questions. I basically want you guys to record here at this point, so that way you can actually see what's going on in the recordings. The next space is another alley. Like I kind of mentioned before, we're going to be discussing dueling. However, I can't take you through that alley like what we're doing here. Why? I've been booted out. I will tell you why I got kicked out of that space, but I still tell the story outside the space, simply because it still stirs up enough activity normally to last the rest of our time together, because we're going to be relatively close to it. We're not going to take another long trek like what we just did as the longest part of our tour together. But we will be cutting through a neighborhood once we get to that next space. We're going to let these gentlemen pass through. Hi, guys. Exit this alley. Both video cameras turned off because we're going to be cutting through a residential neighborhood. We don't record in any residential areas to make sure that they're turned off, and obviously yours being pointed down. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, once we exit, I want to keep recording up until we get up to the street. So Jamie, definitely keep listening. So put both in if you want to.
Okay.
But again, Tim, your device is still going to give off any false positives because of the parking meters. Just so you know. What did you teach, by the way?
No, I was in administration.
Gotcha. Fair enough. All right, let's head up to the next space. Let's see what we can capture up there.
This is very painful.
In your filming. So, you're not recording yet.
This is on.
It is on.
I have to
I
ask.
think I hit the mute button right.
Perfect. All right,
So why did you get out of here?
I'm going to tell you that before we leave, because that's actually the fun part of the story. Everybody asked me that, that's why I added it at the end. So, these shoes are fantastic, but they pick up every giant pebble on the road. Very interesting. If you guys hear me scraping it, I'm trying to get rid of the rocks.
Right.
So, the alley behind me is called Philadelphia Alley now. It used to be called a Dueler's Alley. It had many other names, but we're going to focus on Dueler's Alley, and all the other tours like to go down there, which is why we're out here. So, we all tell the same story, but we're ghost hunting. We're not here for just campfire ghost stories. So I give you a lot more specific details wrapped around this story. So let's get into it. There's a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves down here because his fiancee Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents, and she has an attorney that's helping her out with this cash. The attorney thinks the doctor is just after her money. They're still not recording. There you go. Yeah, you gotta just do it one little quick clip. So he tells Amanda to get rid of the doctor because he thinks he's just after her money. To prove that he's not, he comes down here to Charleston. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and drugged. So it wasn't a very good start to his stay in Charleston, but somebody walking by, his name is Ralph Isaacs. I'm going to stop on Ralph for a second because Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from. Rhode Island, Ralph Isaacs. RI will show up here from time to time, but we always need that secondary clue to kind of see, because those are the two main characters, right? Ralph Isaacs and this doctor. We just need to know who the heck it belongs to. But anyway, he says, you don't want to stay here. He's got a gunman inside. He's going to try to kill you. I can send you over to some friends of mine at 59 Church Street, and you can stay there and you'll be safe. So the doctor takes him up on the offer, and the two become friends. But the longer the doctor stays here, the more money he starts to make. His practice is taking off. He's proving his point that he wasn't just after Amanda's cash flow. So what happens from there is that he knows a man is going to be moving down soon, so he becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. So again, every haunted city you're ever going to go to has a cliched whistling ghost. I can almost guarantee you that. However, I actually have proof of this one, and I'm going to tell you about that towards the end of the actual tale. But him and Ralph go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money than Ralph, which means he has better seats. That's just the way the hierarchy went in the mid-1700s. So with that, they talk about these plays on the way home. They went to go see William III from Shakespeare, and they start arguing over the new actress that was in town. The doctor thought she was fantastic. Ralph, not so much. So their argument gets even more heated when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island, and they go their separate ways. But Ralph, being from here, has friends at the newspaper. He goes to his friends and places an ad telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. The doctor sees this ad and rebuttals with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this. So they come down, they take their 10 paces, they turn. The doctor points his gun in the air and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend, which, by the way, that's often what happened at a duel. There wasn't always a dead person. So he shot his gun in the air, and Ralph has his one shot. He puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. Remember, we talked about the kneecap thing earlier. So the doctor doesn't die either, and Ralph proved his point that he's still pretty angry. The doctor drops to the ground, but his friends pick him up. They carry him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. You have to remember, he's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed out this bullet himself. So they say as you walk through this very cool alley behind me that you can actually hear the whistles from the doctor. Keep in mind, I used to take my groups all the way through the end of this alley where we didn't have earbuds for the spirit boxes yet. It was all about listening to your regular audio. So if you're going to try to go down there without me and turn on your voice recorders from your phone, I want you to keep in mind that every local knows this story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland Street or Queen Street from the other side throws a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night. After we're done over here, my garage is right there. I have to pass the alley in order to get back to my car. So me and my daughter, we always race to see who's going to throw a whistle first when she's on the tour. So it's a fun little game that we have. So here's how I got booted out of here. Everybody's so interested in this. So this alley didn't always come all the way through. This is where they held the livestock for the city of Charleston. So it was called Cow Alley before it was called Dueler's Alley. The bricks on the other side are older. Those bricks were sun-dried bricks from slave children. Basically means they had to turn them to sun-dry them and bake them in the sun. There's a full handprint from a slave child and a few fingerprint swipes in those bricks at the other end. I treat those bricks the same way I do a grave. That kid is not staring at that brick in the afterlife. I can guarantee you that. But I always showed it off because it is a part of our history and it shows how far we've come away from slavery. So again, however, everybody wants to put a spirit box or an EMF detector or something near it to try to capture some activity. It's right outside a gentleman's dining room window. So on November 26th of 2020, yes, a very specific date, my entire team of 10 decided they're going to huddle around this one brick. Well, the person outside the dining room window, it was this beautiful mansion that he just moved into, was not very happy with me and my group. He came out screaming, and my daughter thought it was great because Dad's getting yelled at. But we moved on. November 27th of that year was Thanksgiving. I did not have a tour. I told you I worked in retail for over 20 years. I finally took off for Thanksgiving. So the next day was November 28th of 2020. It's Friday, Black Friday. I have a full group that booked that night, but I get a phone call asking me to either go down halfway, which is as far as we're allowed to go, or reroute my tour. I decide, because every other ghost tour in town likes to go down there in groups of 20, it's not fair for my 10 to work around 20 to 60 people. So I'm going to reroute. And I tell my group, we're going to wing it and see what happens. I don't believe in this story that we're about to go through, but let's see what goes on. And I don't know much, so I'm going to tell what I know. I did not tell them we were going to be discussing female pirate Anne Bonny. Before we leave, somebody hears the name Anne on the spirit box after I was done telling the Philadelphia Alley story. So I was like, all right, maybe there might be some legitimacy there. We get there, I told what I knew about female pirates at the time, and then somebody hears the number 300. I have no idea what it means. The next day, doing the research, Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We were there on November 28th of 2020, the exact 300-year anniversary of her pirate trial. So ever since then, I've been taking folks back there night after night. It is a hit or miss. We're either going to have a lot going on there or nothing at all, almost like what we had going on at the Pinckney Mansion site tonight. Now, as far as the name James that pops up, I want to say there's a James Bean that lived in Lodge Alley. I'm not certain what year that would have been, but I'm definitely going to, I wrote it down, so I'll definitely get you the link if it's actually there. But this last location that we're going to go to is that female pirate story, and if anything else, I've read more books on pirates since that November 28th date, because I was not a pirate person. I'm a vampire guy through and through, just so you guys know. Pirates were not my thing. I've read more books on piracy than I care to want to ever in my life, and I keep reading them. But we're going to go to one more spot in between here and there. Your earbud is not in, so I'm not going to ask you what's actually showing up on your spirit box. Marty, you got anything coming up on your word list before we move on?
Recently busy vote use stream exercise.
Like exorcism? Or like exercise from a bike?
Exorcise.
Gotcha. Again, most of it is BS. Unfortunately, it's going to give us...
Sometimes mild monster.
Sometimes a mild monster. Very interesting. Choice of phrasing here.
Right.
So definitely keep listening until we get up to that church and cemetery. I'll tell you guys what's going on in that location, and then we'll deep dive into that female pirate. So if you guys want to continue recording with your cameras, you can. It looks like it's going to be a pretty not busy night tonight. So let's go up to the church and cemetery, see what we can capture up there.
Okay.
Ready to update these older homes. 30.
Just now?
Hmm?
That just came through just now?
30.
And ready to update these older homes?
Update these older homes, 30. different snippets.
Hmm.
I really can't understand much.
But the stuff that does come through is clear.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Sometimes. Charleston.
So that's the wall back there to Philadelphia Alley that we were just discussing. So notice that there's a gate right in the middle of it. That gate was basically a shortcut to go to the cemetery behind me for when there was a loser before. So in essence, remember that the alley didn't go all the way through. So they have to go all the way down the Queen Street back downtown to get over to the cemetery so they can go celebrate the winter. But that's why that gate is there. Not a whole lot of people know why that gate is there. I don't even remember where I found that information. It was like, that is so cool. I'm going to tell every single night. Yep.
There.
So, go ahead and have a seat. We're going to chill here for a few minutes. You guys can catch your videos up. Otherwise, it's just going to be me talking. It's not. There you go. Alright, so, welcome to the Powder Magazine.
This machine's worried. It says worried.
I'm a little worried about some of the lack of evidence tonight, so I'm hoping that I'm going to go through the recordings and find a whole lot more than what we're getting in real time. So,
Are you saying anything on yours? Did you record it all?
Yeah.
yeah. Alright, so we're going to be discussing this little tiny building first. So you should have noticed that there were like crosses on it as you guys were approaching it before you guys sat down. So this is the gunpowder magazine. Those are not crosses on the building, those are earthquake bolts. The gist behind earthquake bolts is that they're turnbuckles. So in the event we have another earthquake like what we did in 1886 that I mentioned earlier, you can turn those turnbuckles and it'll straighten the building back up again. It's a great idea, it's just stupid and doesn't work. So the reason why I bring this up is because these are the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston actually put in, because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. It was finished in 1713. So we are here because this building is what I call a familiar. It's kind of like using a toy to attract a child ghost. This building was being constructed at the same time that Anne Bonny was starting her pirate career right here in Charleston. So, with all of that said, let's talk about a little bit more about this building just so you have the gist of other things that can pop up here. We talked about the Charlestown Wall earlier. Cumberland Street is where the wall existed. So it went up past the powder magazine behind me and started going to my right, your left, towards the battery. It locked this gunpowder magazine into the corners of it on purpose because it held gunpowder. So in the event that it actually gets attacked from the water 3 blocks away, those cannonballs from the trajectory are going to have a hard time getting to the powder magazine, let alone getting through the 32-inch thick walls. But we're going to pretend that that cannonball reaches the gunpowder magazine, goes through the wall, and blows up the gunpowder. there's sand underneath those clay shingles up there that's designed to go up in the air with the explosion and fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. It's another great idea, but that doesn't work either. We had another powder magazine closer to the battery, closer to the water, did get attacked, sand went up, the building burned to the ground, it doesn't exist. This one, fortunately, has never been attacked. So, this building took 10 years to build, 1703 to 1713. The story begins in 1708, right in the middle of its construction. Try to follow me, there's a lot of twists. Young lady moves here from Ireland. Her name is Anne Cormack. She's with her father and his mistress. The mistress is her mother. Is everybody with me so far? The three of them are running away from his wife. Okay, just want to show you how pissed off she was that she had to leave the damn country. So, they land in Georgetown, just north of here, in between us and Myrtle Beach. Dad buys a plantation. Mom dies pretty quickly. That means he has to send young Anne down here to sell anything from the plantation. Hence why we're here. This is a familiar building. So, back home in Ireland, Anne is kind of a hardcore badass. So they say she actually killed one of her servants when she was only 10 or 12 years old with a knife to the belly. So again, I want you to have that mentality of this young lady as we go through the entire story. So we're going to fast forward. This building is done in 1713. Pirates are coming through Charlestown in 1715. Anne is stoked. She falls in love pretty quickly. Guy number one, James Bonney. Yes, I'm going to keep tally. There's a handful of them. So James Bonney, you can already see where this is going. Dad doesn't approve. They run away to Jamaica. They get married. Anne Cormack becomes Anne Bonney. Now, as far as when she gets there, James Bonney is not who she thought he was. He's not the Captain Jack Sparrow that she was hoping for. This guy is a privateer. Basically, in her eyes, he's a coward. He's a spy for the British. So, she falls in love again a few years later. Guy number two. His name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. What did that just say? It sounded like my name.
Yeah, it did.
Luckily, you're close enough to the camera where we can verify that later. That's actually not me.
That was clear.
Yeah, it's not me personally. You'll see who that is here in just a moment. So, let me know what other words you've got popping up there.
Interrupt.
He just interrupted us.
No.
He's always the top. The newest one's always at the top.
Interrupt, remote.
Okay. So, we're on John Rackham, correct? So John Rackham is actually Calico Jack. This is the same real person that they based Jack Sparrow from the pirate movies off of, just so you know who this guy actually is. So Calico Jack has his own ship, but Anne wants to be part of that ship, but girls curse pirate ships. You can't put a girl on the crew, they're bad luck. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and hide your gender, you can be part of the crew, but you're going to be a female in my quarters. She's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy back home in Ireland to keep her away from his wife as an apprentice at his law firm. So she's like, whatever, I'm a pirate, let's go. Let's put two and two together. We're all adults. Being a female in his quarters, she's eventually going to get pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a female. So he drops her off in Cuba. Go have the baby. These are some friends of mine. They'll help you out. Come back later. We'll figure it out. So she has the baby, but returns with no child. We have no idea what happens to this baby at all. She's also dressed like a female. She doesn't give a damn anymore about hiding her gender. This makes Jack pretty angry. While she was away giving birth to his child, he captured another pirate crew and they're down below deck. Anne's gonna go flirting because that's what Anne does. Guy number three. Guy number three turns out to be a female dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have two females dressed like guys on the same pirate ship. This young lady's name is Mary Reed. Her and Mary become friends, possibly lovers, we'll never know for certain, and the British find out where they are. They send their fleet of ships to take down one pirate ship. Anne and Mary are the only two not drunk enough to come up and fight because, with their one bullet flintlocks, by the way, because they don't know how to use the cannons. You know, they're new to piracy. So, they're obviously going to get taken. As they're being arrested, she looks at her bow and captain, Calico Jack, and says, "You should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog." The word dog being very prominent here on the spirit box. The judge, Nicholas Laws, wants to see the two men that fought back so valiantly after he's tried and hung the drunken pirates and their captain, Calico Jack. So Anne and Mary go in front, they reveal their gender. He doesn't care that they're female. He's still going to hang them because they're still pirates. "We plead our bellies," was the last thing they screamed out, hoping to save themselves because pleading their bellies means they're both pregnant. You can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail, delays the hanging. Dad is still here in the Charlestown area. He bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4. Has 4 children and dies at the age of 84. Yes, very abrupt ending again. Mary Reed dies a year later in 1721 from whatever pirates died from in a Jamaican jail. I'm sure it was scurvious and bumpy and gross. Use your imagination. We don't know if either pregnancy was true, but they claim to be in front of the judge Nicholas Laws. The 2 questions I left out on purpose. The only things I left out that I can actually prove are the name of Calico Jack's ship and the name of Anne Bonny's parents. Everything else you can ask on your own. Figure it out if you want to ask different questions. But those are two things that I can prove for certain. We're only going to spend a short amount of time here, and I'm going to be gauging what's going on. So again, I'm not going to keep this in space long where nothing is actually happening. This is a roll of the dice. We actually do capture quite a few orbs in this space as well, so it's very interesting with the camera out tonight. We'll see what actually happens, but definitely get those spirit boxes cranked up. I'm going to sit here with Tim, and we're going to see what's going on with his device. We're going to set it on the ground and see if we get any readings out of it. Those of you with cameras, if you do want to go to the front of the powder magazine, the only thing I ask is that you don't interrupt other tours. So again, if you want to go get some footage of the front of it, by all means do so. You can exit the lot over there to your left and make another left to go up this way. But yeah, let's see what we can capture here. Jamie, both ears, full attention. You got it. Turn it on up.
Should I walk around?
I just figured you might want to relax because you actually have somewhere to sit.
Nothing's changing. This stays at point 6 the whole time.
This location, we don't get a lot of feedback. It's more about that home. More of a history up on your end than so much the paranormal.
Well, I don't see a lot of paranormal in your presentation. In the sense that I thought there would be specific personalities that we would be trying to have some communication with. So I really don't know what you're doing about the paranormal, except having these fancy devices. So that's just. Told us that the whole story that you just said for the last 10 minutes, there are two things that you know for sure, and the rest is made up, or hearsay, or lore, or whatever.
We should go to the front of the building.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
No luck?
Nah.
It's a pretty cool spot here, though. So what is yours supposed to do? Just sort of fire off like a firecracker if there's some sort of
Yeah, it would show like
Just-
orbs.
just real bright purple?
Yeah, well, it would show like an orb, you know, like a round
Yeah, yeah.
apparition.
Oh,
type of
okay.
thing. I haven't seen any. What about that? Is that camera?
Yeah, I've been mainly just doing a lot of video and just hoping Nick can, pick something up
Right.
maybe tomorrow. Obviously, he has a better eye for this than I do. I mean, obviously it has the blue that's picking up the coldest spots, but I mean, there's just part of the ground obviously that's cooling quicker than the other, so it's trying to get on that. And obviously this metal over here is still warm from the day, so it's hot.
Alright, go back in and hit the parking lot area.
Yeah.
I'd like to look into that cemetery.
Oh, on the east side?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing?
What'd
Nothing?
you see?
Well, it's one way to approach it, for sure.
To me, the history, that paranormal stuff you see on television means anything.
You hear anything?
Ever
Anything?
a resolution or like why it's happening. Not that any of us can really give us a full explanation of why
No,
paranormal.
another thing that I just have to say, one thing that bothers me is that many times tonight you said, and don't ask me any questions. You said that many times, and don't ask me any questions. It's like, well, why are we here? So, just another point to be careful. For me, kind of bothers me.
So if I would have opened it up about questions about the devices at the first location, we literally
Yeah.
would have probably been there another hour.
Oh God, that would be horrible. But
Exactly. And it happened.
You're
no,
right.
no, but I would
I can't imagine that
I
would
would
happen.
be asking you questions about the history that you
So I got a
talked
name, but
about.
I don't know the name.
Amazon.
What's the name?
Catherine.
I have no reference to Catherine
Amazon?
that I can think of relative to where we are.
Like
but of
it
course I
was
can always
for
look
me.
at the cemetery histories.
Yeah.
But again,
Mhm.
I'd have to deep dive into a random person for the actual history.
Well, I appreciate your approach, and it's,
I kinda like it.
Bible.
unique and
Unique,
different.
God's Son and Bible.
I'm on vacation, and actually, I'm done with technology.
Jamie, what are you getting out of yours? Have you heard anything out of it at all?
God's Son, Bible. It's kind of
Yeah. well, you
nothing
get-
about pirates.
And we'll get a lot of religious terms here based on the church, obviously. But of course, like I was just telling Tim,
Okay.
I somewhat expect any terms that show up from Philadelphia Alley that will kind of bleed over to this location too. So again, it's a matter of like, will we get things that'll bleed over from one small space to the next since we're all relatively close. So again, not everybody can listen to that on a, and get it like right away. So again, terms that I have from you, obviously I have June that showed up twice.
Yeah.
Obviously one with a 30 and one with a 19, I think it was.
Mhm.
But you had the number 30 by itself.
30 by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a different location.
Right.
All right, Andrew, you
So-
got the fancy camera.
All right.
How about a
Let's-
1-minute
I'm sorry,
history
I'm
of the
pretty good at
church?
I don't have much on it, to
No.
be honest with you.
No? We're doing our history tour tomorrow. These are you?
All right, let's head over to the wall so I can try to do things up.
Okay.